Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order this evening. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Pape.
Here.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell. Here. Councilmember Leahy. Here. Councilmember Neal.
Here.
Councilmember Ryder.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note, individuals making public comments will be limited to 5 minutes. We did have a sign-up sheet here, which currently is blank, but that doesn't mean that you can't come forward at this time. Is anybody that has any public comments, please rush to the podium. I see nobody rushing. Okay. Well, we'll close out public comments then. Next item up is the consent agenda. All items under this heading are considered to be routine by the City Council, may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. We do have 2 items this evening. Is anybody have any desire to remove any of those items? Okay, well then I would entertain a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council approve consent agendas number 1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Ms. Hands.
And I'll second that.
Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, the next item up is the mayor's report. In case you guys didn't know, Kansas City Chiefs did win the Super Bowl. So a little shout out to our Kansas City Chiefs for.
Ryan looks like he didn't know.
You didn't know? Oh, my, yeah. Missed the game. Yeah. Oh, no, it was an exciting game. I did have to take an extra blood pressure pill last night, but other than that, everything's good today. So first item up on the mayor's report is Stuart Litter's legislative update. We got Dr. Stewart coming to the podium, and hopefully it's on.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Stuart Little. I'm with Little Government Relations in Topeka. Mallory Lutz and I represent you all in Topeka, as long as with 4 of the northeastern Johnson County cities. And I'm happy to give you all a brief update in person. Happy to answer questions. If something comes up I can't answer, I'll get back to you through the administrator's office. We are, at this point of the legislative session, in 2 weeks from the midpoint. So next Friday, we will be halfway through the legislative session. In general, most bills have to pass one side and then the other, and you have to flip them next week. So there's a lot of pressure to get a lot of bills done. A lot of things happening in committee right now. Next week, they'll be on the floor, and then they'll pass them to each other, take a little break, take a few days off, and then come back and work through March. And then at the end of March, they will be done with the regular legislative, or go through April. They'll get to April 5th. That's the end of the session. So we're 8 weeks away from the end of the session. We are moving swiftly. All 165 members of the legislature are up for re-election, so they'll have, they want to get done and get out. There's also kind of an underlying tendency among everybody that you talk to saying we don't want to do anything controversial. So everybody's just kind of ready to get through. They want to do some tax cuts, pass a couple of other things, and that is going to probably be sufficient for what they're attempting to get done for sure in the State House. At this point, there are a couple of issues I would talk about, and I think I have to start kind of with the tax issue because there's all these issues in terms of property taxes. You know, there was a tax bill that sent to the governor. It was a flat tax, included some other components. The governor vetoed it. They have yet to attempt to override it. They had it scheduled to do it tomorrow in the House, and I think they have 2 people that have COVID, so they don't have enough people, and it's going to take everybody to vote. And then Wednesday, of course, there's going to be a lot of people playing hooky, I suspect, or a number of people, which will draw down the numbers of folks that will be there. So they also, in general, we believe, don't have the votes to override the veto. It takes 27 and 84 to do that, and there probably are not that many votes there. The flat tax just has that kind of impact. So they're looking at doing a few other things. The conversation is getting back to what can we do. There is still a great interest in reducing income taxes. I think we may see something that just lowers the regular rates. There is an interest in property tax relief, so increasing the homestead exemption is going to probably be part of what, maybe up to like 100,000, something like that, maybe even more. So that would be an exemption. There are as well tax on Social Security. That's something that everybody wants. They just have to find the right place to put it. So there's going to be another tax bill, maybe just one more, but that's going to happen as long as they don't override this. So we're going to get to that point a bit later in the session, but they took their shot at trying to get it done early, and nothing ever happens early in the legislature because nobody needs to make any decisions until you get to the end. So there are a lot of bills that we're following this year. You've got our report. There's a huge number of them. It peaks kind of this week because bill introductions were done last week. So there's a lot of bills on here. We're going to thin them out because none of them, or a lot of them, are not going anywhere. Some of these things or just get introduced to be introduced. I will mention a few things that we've been participating in on behalf of you all and having and working on. One of them would be a couple of them are beginning first. Some of them with the local control issue. So there's a bill, a number of bills that have come up that we've are offering or will be offering testimony, and one of them even tomorrow on your revenue neutral rate that you have to have for your budget. There's a bill that says if you create any TIFs or CIDs, you cannot exceed your revenue neutral rate for that next year. So they made us all operate with a revenue neutral rate. Now they're going to cap it and say if you do one of those other things, you can't increase your revenue neutral rate. So we're going to be testifying on that. There's some legislation regarding zoning, and born from here in Northeast Johnson County, some questions about how one can change zoning in the process of making adjustments. And there's a bill and there's an issue, but the bill and the issue don't really match up. So there's going to probably be some conversation next year about the zoning statutes, but I don't expect anything to come out this year. There's a bill that had a hearing today that prohibited using public funds for advocacy on your behalf, and it's not just for us, but it'd be the League of Municipalities, or your chief of police is part of the police association that would prohibit you all from spending those dollars. They had a hearing on that today as well. I'm trying to think of a couple more topics. There was a bill that came out earlier that would have required every one of your contracts that had to have this special Department of Administration form that identified, it's boilerplate language you see in contracts. Kansas is the legal setting for this contract and those kind of things. And we came in and talked about and provided testimony about that's a significant overkill in terms of any of the day-to-day kind of smaller contracts. You don't need to be that strict about it. And then if one of your contracts is with Microsoft's not going to agree that Kansas is your jurisdiction. And it just didn't work out, but these attempts that we have still to kind of keep an eye on and some restrictions on the work that you all are doing. I think it's not a terribly busy year for legislation impacting us. There's a lot of focus on tax policy and a little bit on education policy. So some of these things have come up, but there's not a real sense that, unlike some prior years, we're under the gun in some terms. So I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any about legislation.
And forgive me, Dr. Luter, but there was one on taxation where it looks like they were trying to change the law in reference to if you were outside, that your taxes you spend would go back to your city versus
Yes.
With the exception of cars.
Yes.
Which obviously impacts us the most.
Oh, yeah.
But I could also see that impacting us from like IKEA or somewhere else.
Right, exactly.
Where's the status of
So
that?
there's a bill, it is House Bill 2566. It's sitting in the House Tax Committee, and it has not had a hearing yet, which is usually an indicator that it is not going to move by this point in the session. But you never know who gets an interest in a piece of legislation, and you're right. It sends the sales tax to the county in which the purchaser lives if you order it. So if you're going to get something from IKEA, you're going to have it come to you, the sales tax that would be collected to me in Shawnee County where I live. They'd get the tax revenue for any of those kind of things. It does exclude cars, planes, and boats. So the boat business here in Merriam's okay, but it is one of those things that very easily, as you get through the process and moving this, if it were to move forward, someone could very easily say, well, why cars? And as you all that have been around for a while know, that's a significant issue here. And I think as recently as 2 years ago, there were legislators talking about doing those kind of things. And part of it is there are people that don't live in an urban area that wonder why their home community doesn't get their sales tax. And they oftentimes remember that with their new vehicles when they do that. So it's not going anywhere, but we're certainly watching it.
Good. And that was my thought, that if they passed that was the next step, was next year to come back and go after cars.
Yep.
Any other questions, Dr. Little? Go ahead, Ms. Ans.
Could you speak to the LAVTR fund?
Yeah,
Discussions.
the concept was to bring back the statutory transfer of revenue from the state to local units of government to offset the property taxes. The last time it was used, I believe, or it was the law was fulfilled was 20 some odd years ago at least. And so they haven't done that. The governor was interested in doing that. There have been a couple of bills to restore the LAVTRF because it would allow you all to make property tax relief here and reduce the property taxes and have some of that state revenue, which is exactly why the legislature funded it before. That bill does not generate a lot of interest among leadership in the two chambers, and they're more interested in having property tax relief, not secondhand through you all. There have been some conversations about LAVTRF, maybe if it was guaranteed that it would reduce property taxes and you all couldn't substitute some of those dollars to make up things, it would be straight for property tax relief. There's a bill at this point, because folks know there's an interest in property tax relief. One of the bills that I believe has a hearing tomorrow would take the LAVTRF money and turn it into, what was he described it as, a rebates for people's property taxes if they were to go through that. I don't know how that satisfies the definition of an LAVTR, but I don't expect the LAVTR to advance this year. If there is a conversation about property tax relief, it's been an idea that's capping increase in assessed valuation or appraisals. And there was a constitutional amendment that passed the Senate that would have capped all appraisals at 4% and going forward. And it does not have a lot of support in the House. And so it's kind of sitting there as an issue. We still have that constitutional amendment waiting, but they're looking at other things. So I think increasing the homestead exemption seems to be the one that they're the most friendly with. So you start monkeying with the rates, then you start get the ag land values into the conversation, and then we're just there for 6 months.
So is the fund really encumbered funds? Are they really sitting there, or did the state dip into them when they were having financial problems?
No, as with almost anything that's in statute, the fund is set up and it exists and it's in law, but if you don't put any money in it, you don't have to fund it. And so for all of these 20-odd years, the legislature, every single budget bill that they pass has a little paragraph at the end that says, notwithstanding the language authorizing the LAVTRF, there will be no appropriation made for this year. And so that's how they've gotten around it. So there's not a, we wish there was a giant cash reserve building up there, but no, there's not actual money there. That's how they've handled it.
It's so disturbing because I did ask to have an estimate of how much Merriam had not gotten over all those
yeah.
years. And the number was alarmingly high. It was over $5 million.
Yeah.
So it's quite disturbing to me.
Any other questions? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Yantry.
Hi, Stuart.
Hi.
I have a question that's actually not on our legislative
Good.
agenda. It's related to another Senate bill, SB 36. It's the locals or state version of the Crown Act. I'm wondering if, I know there was a testimony, I think there was a hearing on January 11th. Do you know if that's going to make it out of the Senate at all, or have you kept any eyes on it
No,
whatsoever?
actually, we've been paying attention to that bill, and it was heard in Senate Federal and State Affairs Committee, and there have been runs at it a few times in over the last few years. Folks trying to get the bill to advance. It has not come out of the committee yet. I don't know that it will come out of the committee. It's. I don't suspect it will at this point in the year of we don't want to do anything controversial. Not that that's controversial, but there's some people who believe it probably is.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, we appreciate you representing our interests there in Topeka, and look forward to finding out what happens and when everything actually comes to a culmination. So,
That's right. Thank you very much.
thank you, Dr. Lynn. Okay, next item up is from the mayor's report still, would be our proclamation for Black History Month. I always like reading these. As everybody is aware that it is Black History Month, and we have a lot of history here in Merriam. So I would just read this through this. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by the African Americans and recognize their central role in U.S. history. And whereas Black History Month evolved out of Carter G. Woodson's idea for Negro History Week, which started in 1926 to promote African American history, culture, and achievements. And whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to battle racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the 2024 national theme for the observance is African Americans in the Arts, and explores the many impacts Black Americans have had on visual arts, music, and cultural movements. And whereas the City of Merriam will honor and celebrate Black History Month with a special art exhibit at the Tim Murphy Art Gallery showcasing Black artists from across the Kansas City metro area, and another exhibit that depicts our city's proud history that includes a school desegregation lawsuit, a precursor to Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka. Now therefore I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as Black History Month, proclaimed on this 12th day of February 2024. And I would just like to add a few other things. Has everybody seen the video that was put together by our staff? I mean, it is excellent, talking about the Black history that occurred here in Merriam. You probably had something to do with that too, Lauren, or didn't Jenna, or who did that, Caitlin, do you? Jenna and Brenna, okay. Anyway, I would encourage everybody to get on the site. I assume it's up on our website. Is that access to them? And take a look at that. I know some of the things. I just made some notes. And I won't get it all, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least call out some of the things that occurred right here in Merriam, in case you don't go to that site to see all this information. But starting out with Alfonso Webb and Mary Webb, they were the impetus, the people that brought forth the lawsuit against the School District 90 that sought to end segregation in schools. When South Park Elementary was built, it was going to be a white-only school, and the Walker School was going to house just the blacks. So there was definitely going to be segregation that was going to occur right here in Merriam for that. Corinthian Nutter taught schools at the Walker School and also in parents' homes, and Alfonso and Mary took the case to the Supreme Court. Esther Brown, a local activist, took up the cause and ultimately led to the decision of Brown versus the Kansas Board of Education that ended segregation of schools. And of course, that not just ended it here in Merriam, but that ended it throughout the whole United States. And that kind of all started right here in Merriam. The Webb family is still here in Merriam, very important part of our community. And also of note, I think, is Council Member Julius McFarland was the first black council member in Johnson County. And Mayor Carl Wilkes was the first black mayor in Johnson County, right here in Merriam. So these early leaders, all those I mentioned earlier, and those two individuals, established the first NAACP chapter in Johnson County. So that all occurred right here in Merriam. So we pride ourselves that we're an inclusive community, but I think our history goes way back that has impacted not just Merriam, but people all over the United States. So kudos and shouts go out for Black History Month, very important. Okay, but I do have other things. Oh, let's see. Oh, sure. Please, go ahead.
I also wanted to point out that I believe the video is playing in the community center, and there's a nice cushy seat in front of it if people wanted to go check out the community center and the video.
And the art exhibit.
And the
it's
art
going on
exhibit.
until February 24th. Does that sound right? Sounds about right. Okay. You get down there and see it, though. Yeah, some great art down there, and thanks for bringing that to our attention, Councilmember Silvers. Okay, other things that's gone on that I know about, please fill me in at the end if I miss anything. But I got the opportunity to meet with our 2023 Northeast Chamber leadership class and talk about the great things that Merriam's doing. Shared my views on leadership, which is to hire good, talented employees and get out of the way and let them do their jobs. We have great employees in our city. We actually have 4 people currently enrolled in that class, which are Assistant City Administrator Ms. Gard is one of those. That shows their desire to serve the community better by spending that extra time and getting the education to hone their leadership skills. I got to assist in the replacement of our flags that were tattered with the new flags in preparation for our Flags for Freedom event in July. We had a lot of volunteers there, even retired council member Al Frisbee helped us down there. And a lot of our employees and a lot of residents throughout the community itself came down to help. But the next one of that is going to be February 23rd at our Public Works facility at noon. No, it's not going to be noon, at 10, at 11. Would you like to correct me?
Well, we're evaluating after doing the first one.
Uh-huh.
We're looking to shorten it. So stay tuned for start time.
There we go. Stay tuned for start times. But we really did a good job, I thought.
You did a great job.
We did a great job.
Great job.
Yeah, I think we did 900 that day, but so I'm not sure what we're going to be doing. Well, 400, okay. All right, we're going to get it done quicker than we anticipate. So stay tuned for the next available opportunity. I and council members Leahy got to attend the Merriam Employees Luncheon. I think that was all that was there at this time, which is always a good opportunity to sit down, break bread with our employees, and express our gratitude for the great job that they do. I and Councilmember Hans attended the Tim Murphy Art Gallery opening reception for the Black Artist History Month and what's going on down there. That's really was good, and we always have good food, thanks to Anna too. And the video. Oh, you did too? Oh, sorry, I missed you. Okay, I must have ducked out early. Okay, well, we also had Councilmember Shavetta was there too. Okay, I and Chris Engel met with Senator Marshall's Kansas City Director Tammy Bartonek. We got to tell her about the work that's being done here with our Corps of Engineers and the fact that we shared with all the other grants, the 20 grants that currently Merriam has. And we also said we'd like to be informed of any grants that might be out there that we're unaware of, obviously to assist us in providing more assistance to our community. And we've already heard back from her. So there was a grant that she emailed back Chris and I, and we're going to be investigating that to see if we can maybe get some more money from the federal government. But I, Councilmember Hans, Chris Engel, and Caitlin Gard met with the Kansas Senator, was it Diana Sykes? Yep. And her assistant, which I've forgotten her name now too, and her assistant, which was good, and Stuart Little, and his assistant is Ms. Lutz in Topeka. We invited others, but they were in the committee actually doing their work, so we forgive them for not being able to meet with us up there. But we talked about our legislative agenda, and they got a copy of what we're looking at, what's important to Merriam, and told them to give us a call if there's any way we can be of assistance. I attended the Johnson County and Wyandotte County Mayor's monthly meeting. It was hosted by the next Mayor, Julie Sayers. Program that evening was given by the Mid-America Regional Council, who spoke about affordable housing in the region and the data hub that they have available online that we can utilize in making decisions that pertain to us in Merriam and our needs concerning rental units, long-term and short-term rental units, and housing. I and Councilmember Hands met with Mr. Engel to prepare tonight's agenda. I got to witness Team Merriam in action in a 5K run and a polar bear plunge at, I didn't see polar bears, but that's what I think they called it, at Olathe Lake for fundraising for Special Olympics. I think they exceeded the goal. I know it was 2,500. Do we have an updated amount of how much was raised, Chief, or getting?
I saw 2550 on the page.
Okay. I heard that we exceeded the 2,500 though, so yeah, congratulations to them. That's for a great cause. We also, I think Ms. Gard was our team captain, I assume, because she was kind of skirting around, making sure everybody was where they needed to be. But and a special shout goes out to Captain Jeremiah Waters, who had the torch, and he lit the kind of the beginning of the ceremony itself, lit the big fire and with the torch. And also, Chief, if you could remind me, was he in Germany or where was he when they last summer for the torch? So he was on the international leg for the torch run. And the state of Kansas president. But anyway, that's the kind of leadership we have here in Merriam, and send our thanks to him for all that he does in that undertaking. So he represented Merriam obviously very well in all law enforcement. That was great. I wanted to jump in that cold water, but somebody had to hold the camera, and so I'll get those pictures to you later, Ms. Gard. So I did take lots of pictures. Councilmember Silvers attended the Merriam Drainage Board meeting. We appreciate you for doing that for us. And gosh, I think that's about all I know. Did I miss anything of any other council members that may have done that I'm unaware of? Okay. All right. Well, I always like to share that there's a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes, and that's not just a council meeting here that we attend twice a month. So, well, I think next item up is Community Development's annual report. Looks like we got Director Dyer coming to the podium.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. Let me get this going. And this evening, got, as mentioned, an annual report for 2023 from Community Development. I'm going to run through a lot of different statistics about different programs we have going. Kind of putting some more trend analysis in there, more trend data in there, basis on some comments we received from previous presentations. So if you got any questions or any comments about this presentation, just at any time, just jump right on in. So the first area we're going to cover over is code enforcement. And you see here we got some code enforcement statistics going from 2017 to 2023. This bar chart actually kind of gives a good representation of how code enforcement works in general. They're orange, red up there. So the bars that say code violations, and then you had the gray bar as a final notice, and the yellow bar that's a notice to appear. So again, kind of the process on code enforcement. Again, in general, because there is exceptions to every single rule, and particularly the biggest exception, what I'm about ready to tell you, is in regards to tall weeds and grass and the enforcement procedure on that. But again, in general, kind of a three-step process on code enforcement. So if someone has, say, outdoor storage, trash and debris in the front yard, the first thing to receive from the city, from code enforcement, is going to be a letter, a code violation letter, saying, hey, here's the violation we observed. You have a certain time period to get that violation fixed, and say it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, code officer goes by, and if the violation still exists, we send them a final notice, and that final notice is, hey, this is your final notice to get that problem dealt with. Otherwise, you're going to get a notice to appear, and then they go by after the time period, and if the violation still exists, they issue a notice to appear. Actually, court services issues a notice to appear. The notice to appear is the actual ticket. So that's important to understand. And when people say, hey, codes gave me a ticket, was it just a letter saying you need to fix something, or was it really a notice to appear, which is truly a ticket? So going over through the stats, you can see generally since 2017, we do about 900 to 700 code violations. That's a distinct individual violation, not necessarily a letter. Kind of the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, kind of represent change in staffing. In 2022, we had a retirement. New staffers came on in 2023. And again, as they start learning the processes of the city, it'll be interesting to see how our codes and trend lines go forward on that. But again, it's always interesting, and it always is kind of typical in that, we send out code violation letters, and then about a third of those folks don't comply. Then we send out the next final notice, and then about a tenth of those folks don't apply, and those are actually the notices to appear or the actual ticket. Residential landlord license issues. A little bit of a residential landlord program. So we'll just set aside apartment complexes, because apartment complexes, we really kind of go through our business licensing process. We do interior inspections of our apartment complexes, but just kind of set those aside. So when we say residential landlord license, these are single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes typically. If you, as a landlord, have a unit that you're leasing out, you're required to get an annual license to the city for that, for each one of your units. And then every other year, we do an interior inspection of the unit. We always do inspections, keep tabs on all the units as we do our typical looks and drive-bys through the city. But we do an interior inspection every other year. We're one of the few cities that do the interior inspection of rental units. So this is the number showing the number of single-family duplexes and triplexes units that have a landlord license. Obviously, there's a significant jump in this, 2020. A lot of things happened in 2020, and we saw a big jump in the number of homes that were perhaps owner-occupied become rental units. Obviously, about 80 homes at that point in time increased in 2020, and they continues to have an upward growth in that an additional 20 homes between 2020 and 2023. We'll really keep tabs on that. Lots of different reasons could be causing this: high interest rates, affordability, all kinds of things. Obviously, Merriam is the most affordable community in Johnson County, but again, we'll keep tabs on that and obviously keep following that as we go along. Building permits. So we issue a wide variety of building permits. I've lumped them down into 6 categories. So that is not all the different variety of building permits we issued, but I just tried to get them down into a bite-sized and understandable category. MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Banner year for building permits in regards to building evaluation. $122 million worth of building evaluation, which is a phenomenal number, particularly when you consider the size of the city. Obviously, the biggest part of that is Merriam Grand Station, but yeah, we had a biggest year ever, which I'll show you in just a second, in regards to building permits on building evaluation. So here, trend line, we're going back to 2023. The blue line is the number of building permits issued. The orange is the building evaluation in the year that the permit was issued, and then the gray is adjusted for inflation. So obviously you can see 2023, biggest year we've ever had in regards to valuation. It is always interesting to look at this graph to see there really is zero correlation between the number of building permits we issue and the total building evaluation. That really is hardly ever correlation between those two. So neighborhood grants, these are exactly the types of grant, these are exactly what they are, grants that we do within community development and also public works to assist our neighborhoods. Block parties, 17 grants, almost $4,000 reimbursed. Compost bins, 2 households, about $115 reimbursed. Neighborhood island grant, those are the grant that Public Works administers. 4 locations, $1,700, and Contain the Rain, that's a grant that we do in cooperation with Johnson County. 4 households and $1,500 reimbursed. Again, a little bit of trend analysis from 2019. Obviously, 2020 was block parties did not have very many of those in 2020, which is completely understandable. But since that point in time, that definitely is one of the grants that continues to increase in the usage and the interest of residents. Neighborhood islands typically do about 3 to 4 a year. 2023 was the biggest year in those, and 4 neighborhood islands. I got a little bit of before and after pictures. 3 of the islands were done in Forest Park neighborhood on Wedge Street, Maston Drive, 68th Street, and then this is the one that wasn't in Forest Park. It was over in Sherwood Forest. Little graph, a little map to show the locations of all the grants spread out throughout the city. 2023 assistance grants. These are the grants that community development administers to help our folks that show a need based generally upon income. Before I go into the different grants, probably the biggest thing I want to note is, if you all recall, that we had a pretty significant change between 2022 and 2023 in how you all set up these grants. Previously in 2022, it's 50% of area median income. You all made a decision when you did the 2023 budget to increase that to 80% of area median income. So obviously that increased the number of folks that are eligible for these grants. And as you can see, we'll definitely show it had a significant effect on them. So first program, franchise fee rebate. This is a rebate on franchise fees the city has on like phone and cable. 58 households, about average benefit of about 80. Residential city property tax rebate. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on this one, just a second on this one, to say this one is probably by far the one that's most appreciated by the residents that we deal with and somewhat anecdotally understand. Nancy Yoakum, who runs the office, she really interfaces a lot with the folks within these programs. And yeah, this is one of the programs. People get tears when they find out how much they're getting a rebate on this. So this is easily the one that I think folks really, really enjoy, and we get probably the most positive feedback by far on that program. So obviously, served 56 households. The average benefit was just under $760. Again, that's the program in which the city rebates the city's portions of residential property that back to the actual property owner. Driveway grant, 11 households, average benefit about $700. Small projects. This is the grant that, if you all recall, this is a grant that was really something to help community development code enforcement officers when they saw a need that was a significant need, and somebody indicated that they just didn't have the income to address that need. It was a grant that they would be able to say, hey, we can help you with that. And the one we did was a perfect example of that. Had an individual who had a very large tree that fell down. They had no way, they did not have the income to be able to address that. So through that small project grant, we were able to address that tree and get that problem solved. Rental assistance is a program that we partner with Johnson County Aging. A little note on the rental and the utility assistance. That's 200% of area median income is the guidelines for that. So we, through Johnson County Aging, we were able to assist 6 households, about $300 in average benefit, and then utility assistance, total benefit on that was about $7,600. Franchise fee rebate trend line. This has been a very old program from at least 1996. Actually, I think it goes further back than that. As you can see, it's been trending downward. Again, all the folks that participate in this program have gone on to their rewards, but then when we increased the income guidelines, saw a big jump in the amount of people that could participate in it. We only had do 2 years so far to see property tax rebate. You can see changing the guidelines more than doubled the number of folks that could participate in it. Driveway repair and replacement, that was a little bit different. We increased not only the income guidelines, but also the total amount budgeted for that. So that's where we had a larger number of participants in it. And then a great map to show just how spread out that these grants are throughout the city. So it touches every neighborhood within the city. Residential exterior improvements and sustainability grants. These are one of our 2 oldest grants. Residential exterior improvements, exactly what it is. Improvements for the exterior of a home, residential home. Roof, siding, painting, driveways, sidewalks, landscaping, those types of things. Sustainability grant is to help our residents do things to make their home more energy efficient. HVAC systems, insulation, windows, and solar, kind of the main ones that we get on that. We will reimburse 30%, will reimburse the resident 30% of the total amount of improvement they made. We capped that at a $3,000 maximum reimbursement. Oops. So break down the residential exterior improvements. Most of them were roofing, siding, or painting, followed up by driveways and sidewalks. Oops, wrong button. Here's again, trend line on how that's been going. Again, we continue to see increased participation in it. It is a little interesting to note that in 2022, we did 45 grants. In 2023, we did 49, but yet there's a pretty significant difference in the amount that the program leveraged. That's the amount of private dollars the program brought in for the improvements. So it really kind of states that in 2023, more projects, but smaller projects. Residential sustainability, again, as I mentioned earlier, windows and HVAC systems are the biggest things folks go for on that. Again, with that program, been pretty stable the last 2 years, 20 participants with a very similar amount in leverage. And then this is a summary of all the programs put together. David Easley is the neighborhood services manager. He's the main person. He is the person who administers this grant. And as you can see, a lot of time and effort goes into this. He took in 85 applications last year. That's a lot of paperwork. He works really hard with the residents in regards to getting their paperwork in, getting them qualified, and making sure their project meets the guidelines. And of those 85 applications, we had 71 homes in the program. Reimburses between the total of the two programs by $165,000. And average improvement amount was 10 grand. Again, that's less than what it was last year, as I mentioned earlier. And then this is always the neat graph. So for $1 of city funds, we leveraged about $4.50 in private funds. Those are funds that the actual homeowner put into the project. Again, map showing the locations of these things throughout the city. Again, spread out all through the city. And some pictures, before and after pictures. Again, I think this really shows some marked improvements that the grants make for neighborhoods. I would say this one is probably the most transformative. Yeah, it really shows and demonstrates how important those grants are and how big of an improvement they make to the neighborhoods. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Director Dyer? Go ahead.
I have a question about the driveways. How many are left to do? These are driveways that don't conform to city standards, right?
So a couple of things. One, first of all, for the driveway program, so not the residential exterior program,
Right.
you can do a driveway on the residential exterior program. So for the driveway program, that is income-based.
Right,
You have to be a property owner,
right.
and you have to have a driveway that's either gravel or would be in disrepair to the state of
Right.
a code violation.
How many are left to do?
We send out a lot of letters, and we just don't get a lot of response
Okay.
back. I don't know how many is left to do because I don't know the income guidelines. I don't know if
Right.
somebody that I send a letter to is income eligible, so I don't know.
Okay. But people that get a letter that don't have, I mean, everybody gets a letter that has a gravel driveway.
Correct.
So how many gravel driveways do we have left
I
in the
will have to
city?
get that for you.
Okay.
I do not know.
That's
the
fine.
answer. Yeah, I can get you the gravel.
I was just
In
wondering
fact,
if we're making progress.
probably a better way is I'll just get you the total number of letters we sent out. So that'll be gravel driveways. Yeah, and that's an excellent question. But yeah, always keep in mind, and we struggle a little bit with that ourselves. Like, hey, we got all these driveways. Well, you got to remember, A, got to be owner occupied, and B, they have to be income eligible. And so then you can go, oh yeah, there's really not that many folks who probably fit in it.
And my question probably gets more into how many gravel driveways do we have left?
We'll be happy to get you that. I will get you those. We will get that and send those out to the council. Yep.
Did you have something, Ms. Shavetta? Okay. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when we send those letters out for the gravel driveways, do we also encourage them to use the exterior improvement grant if they're not income eligible?
I'll have to ask with David. If we don't, we will. Yep. All right, excellent point.
Oh,
I
go
get
ahead,
a letter because I have a gravel driveway, but no, I don't meet the income restrictions. So no, it doesn't say, at least the last one I got, I don't think it said anything about the
Yeah,
grant.
that's a great comment. We'll make that change.
Other questions? Director Dyer? I guess not. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Okay, let's see. Well, next item up is approve a contract with Central Industrial Sheet Metal Works. It looks like a Director Kumpke is coming to the podium. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, the City Hall exterior improvements project was completed in 2022, and there was a number of miscellaneous improvements. There were 2 items that didn't meet our city standards that were completed, and that included the perforated metal panels on the concrete walls outside City Hall and the aluminum sunshade system. A contract was approved with Central Industrial Sheet Metal Works to complete the metal panels, and that was completed in December 2023. I think it looks really good, so we're really excited about that. So we asked them for a bid to complete the rework of the aluminum sunshade system. So they gave us a quote in the amount of $50,820. That includes preparing engineering drawings, reworking any damaged areas on the sunshade, fabricating any new components, and reinstalling the sunshade. The budgeted amount for the project is $300,000, and the total cost for this project would, if approved, would exceed the budget by $8,861. We do have funds in the CIP contingency funds, so I would recommend approval of this item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions, Director Kumpke? Okay. Well, seeing no questions, I believe I would entertain a motion. Go ahead, Ms. Hands.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a contract with Central Industrial Sheet Metal Works Incorporated for rework of the exterior sunshade at City Hall.
Okay, have a motion. Ms. Shatters, second.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion second. Go ahead.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Dr. Kumpke. Okay, it looks like next item up, looks like we have Ms. Gord coming to the podium to confirm the appointment of Thomas Penland as our city prosecutor.
Good evening. This evening, you're being asked to confirm the appointment of Thomas Penland as the city prosecutor. TC has served as the city's prosecutor since 2021 on a contract with a 2-year expiration, expires at the end of February this month. So you're asking to renew the contract for 2 years with a 4.5% pay increase. That's similar to other Johnson County communities and also what city staff have received over the last few years. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Ms. Gard, no? Okay, nope. Well, if that, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms.
I
Hands.
move that the council confirm the appointment of Thomas T.C. Penland as the city prosecutor and approve the associated contract.
Okay, we have a motion, or a second? Ms. Ryder.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion second, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like we have another appointment. Ms. Gard.
We sure do. You are being asked to confirm the appointment of John Harville as the municipal judge. Mr. Harville has served as the municipal judge for over 25 years in a great capacity, and so we are asking to continue that and a 2-year contract with a 4.5% pay increase, similar to other municipalities in the area and city staff as well. Again, a 2-year contract, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Gord? No, it's not a question. Okay, so I entertain a motion.
I think that Ms. Ryder would like to make a motion.
Ms. Ryder? Please, Ms. Ryder, go ahead.
I move that the council confirm the appointment of John Harville as municipal judge and approve the associated contract.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Ms. Hands.
I'll second that.
We have a motion second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell. Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. Card. Okay, looks like next item up would be the February CIP update. Looks like, oh, yes, go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
Real quick before we go to the CIP update.
Sure.
I just wanted to remind the people on council and public that though it's not a public meeting, everyone is able to sit in and watch court proceedings. It's twice a week. I've done it on Tuesday and Thursday, and it's just really interesting to see how that works and where your public dollars are going.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Probably a lot of people didn't realize that, so thank you. Okay, go ahead. Director Kumpke.
Okay, there's 2 projects in our CIP update for February. Details are provided in the package, so I won't go into further information on that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. And there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes, so we will be having more projects in the package, but right now these are projects that we're kind of trying to wrap up and move forward.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Silvers, go ahead.
Would you be able to just describe briefly what the road construction that's going on around Antioch and Knox? There's some steel plates on the roadway. It's been, they were placed there before the snow, so it's been a while.
I'm assuming that's a utility, but I don't know that for sure. Our right-of-way person would know that.
Well, it was a water main break that happened before the giant cold snap. So they kind of sealed most of it up, but then they had to put the metal plates down. They have not been back, so I'm not sure when they're coming back, but hopefully soon. But that leak had been going on for a long, long time, and they said there wasn't anything going on. They came through, did some kind of fix, and then it burst like a while ago. So,
And to expand on that, so what happens when there's a water main break is that crew goes out to repair it. Then they have a separate crew that comes out and repairs the asphalt. So the restoration crew is different. So that's why there's sometimes a lag while they'll put the plate on. Then they'll come back with the asphalt. So sometimes it's kind of frustrating. It's like, where are they? Get out there. But they're different crews that are, assigned to do all the work in certain areas.
and I bet we don't have any asphalt right now because of winter.
Right. Sometimes they'll put on a cold patch and then come back and do a real asphalt patch when it's available.
But we have a glamorous plate, so.
Well, and one of the reasons I was asking is it's actually causing some traffic issues because people drive in the center lane to avoid those and then instantly come over to the curbside lane where people are trying to turn right onto Antioch going south. And usually they're so worried about the steel plates that they're not paying attention to cars entering the roadway. And I've almost been hit a couple times, but it'd be nice if we could get that wrapped up. And I know it's not our local CIP now. Thank you, Whitney. But if we could, in any way, let them know that it's causing some traffic issues, that'd be nice.
I'll have our right-of-way inspector go out tomorrow and contact them and see what we can do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions concerning the CIP report that we saw? I see that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and of course, we also, informational item, we had the Park and Recreation Advisory Board minutes were in our packet. We do have Director Slocum here if anybody has any questions for her, but see none. Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Engel, do we have anything else?
I don't, Mayor. Happy to answer any questions, though.
Any questions from Mr. Engel? I see no questions from Mr. Engel, and we have no executive session.
No, sir.
So that takes me down, looks to my last item would be adjournment. I'd entertain a motion. Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Ms. Hans.
I'm happy to second that.
Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.